Welcome to the Introverted Doctor podcast, the podcast that uncovers myths, mistakes, and misconceptions that hold healthcare professionals back from living their best life at work, home, and play. I'm Dr. Lalit Chawla, and with each episode, I'll be focusing on different aspects such as communication techniques, mindset, routines, tools, and strategies, with the goal to show how to eliminate anxiety, trip-ups, and unwelcome results that come from ineffective communications. Welcome to this week's episode, and thank you very much for listening and your support. I just want to start off by saying I'm so grateful for all the personal messages and calls that I get. So a personal thank you for all of you that are listening. So let's get into it. I was talking to a good friend of mine last week, and I was telling him a story that my father had told me. And my friend said, "You have got to put that story and other truisms that your father tells you in your podcast." And I told him, well, I do mention some of my dad's thoughts in my podcast when it's relevant. But he said, no, you have to share this one about the hand and the fist. So based on his suggestion, I'll share that particular one with you. And by the way, I would also love to hear from you anything that you may have learned from your dad, mom, or grandparents that really stuck with you. Send me an email at lalit@theintroverteddoctor.com. So that's Lalit, Lalit at theintroverteddoctor.com. And I'll put a link in the show notes. So this story that I'll share with you is one that I heard from my dad when I was about 20 years old, and it still has stuck with me decades later. And by the way, my dad died in 2011. Otherwise, I'd ask him to share that story with you. He was a great orator and great storyteller. Anyway, he was teaching me the difference between enabling people and helping people. And he said this. He said, "Son, there's a difference between helping and enabling someone. And the difference can be hard to understand and manage. Let me explain. Say you were financially better off than I was, and we were friends. Say you found out that I was struggling financially and we were chatting, and you felt generous, and you said, here's $100 bill or whatever amount that you wanted to give. Initially, I would most likely say no. I'll figure a way out. My hand would be a closed fist. You might insist, and I would insist no. Now say you persist and you pried my fingers open and you put that $100 bill in my hand. Eventually, I might take it just out of financial need or friendship. Now, let's say this happens a few more times as you express your generosity to me by giving me more money, and you open up my fist and you put the money in my hand. Now, each time you do that, you may feel good about what you're doing, but more importantly, my hand opens up more easily. And given enough time, my hand will remain open, and then it will be me who will be coming to you for more money, and I will simply expect it from you without any thought or any kind of conscious. Essentially, you would have become an extension of my financial resources without any accountability. You've now enabled me instead of truly helping me. You're disabling me in the long run. Your helping is hurting. Now listen, son, I'm not saying don't give. It's good to help people, because if you can help and you're in a privileged position to help them, you should. But be mindful and cautious that you aren't enabling them in a way that's disabling them. Finding the balance is really the key. Always teach a person to fish instead of catching a fish for them every time. Teach them a skill that they can use to become better. Plant a seed that gives them the gift to grow independently. So I share that piece of wisdom with you, and it's something that I think about when trying to figure out how much I should do for others, whether it's for my kids, letting them struggle through the learning process and not doing their homework for them, for example, or when I'm conversing, say, with a patient and trying to figure out ways that will enable them to think and solve problems independently. I use it personally too, in that to know how am I doing and how am I showing up in situations. Have I consciously or unconsciously let someone disable me, and is it me who's coming out with my hands open? Do I need to learn a skill so that I can function with greater grace and efficacy at work, home, or in other activities that I do? So that's it, the open and closed hand story. Something that has stuck with me and a lesson I'll pass on to my children. It's something I have shared with friends of mine, and I consider you a friend that I just haven't met. So I share this with you. I hope this story can serve you when you're deciding how much or how you can help someone live better. Are you helping them by teaching them a skill versus just throwing money or a pill, if you're a clinician, at the problem or situation? Because of that story, I do more volunteer work and give more of my time versus strictly donating monetarily. Now, donating monetarily is important and something that I still do, but it's important, and I certainly don't discourage you from doing that as well. But if you can use a skill or teach someone a skill, that's even more worthwhile. I'd love to hear your stories, truisms, metaphors that have served you, and would love it if you would share it with me. Please email me at lalit@theintroverteddoctor.com, Lalit, Lalit, at theintroverteddoctor.com. I hope this podcast served you in some way, and if you've enjoyed this podcast, please share it with a friend or a colleague, and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or go to the link and you'll get some weekly emails and reminders about the upcoming episodes. And I'm Dr. Lalit Chawla, and thank you so much for listening. Let's together make a more greater, effective community and inspire people to live with greater harmony, joy, and magic in their lives. Have a fantastic week.